What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up, everybody? What is up? Another episode of Coffee and Grit. Welcome back to all the difference makers. Episode 101, and we've got Adam Klug in the studio today. You know, and I mentioned this a couple episodes ago. Lacey Reedy, my guest a couple weeks ago, had reached out to me and asked about being on the show. And I mention this all the time. If you have an interest in being on the show and you have a story and you have been watching and you're like, I think I could be on this show, reach out. Let's have a conversation. And that's what this guy did a couple times in comments. And I was like, all right, I got you in the back of my head. And then we ended up having a conversation. And it's like, let's get you scheduled and get you on the show. And that's what really it's all about. And we've been jamming here and I had to say, all right, let's stop because we're going to tell this story on the show. And so I'm super excited for Adam to share his journey in how he got to where he's at now. So Adam, man, welcome to Coffee and Grit. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's awesome to be here.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So man, we were just talking about, okay, so the business that you're in like how you met your wife. And so I want to go back through and revisit that story because it ties into everything into where you're at now. And so tell me the story about hiring the wrong person.
Yeah, hiring the wrong person. So, so a little bit on my background. I grew up in Southwest Michigan, grew up on a farm, 250-acre strawberry farm out there. And then I had little to no inkling to go to college at the time. And then one of my buddies, Sammy, said, hey, let's go to apply to Grand Valley, see if you get in. Let's go there together. So I ended up going there together. Like many others, my second semester through, didn't have any money. So I figured out how I'm going to pay for this college and basically joined the National Guard, joined the Army with that. And then fast tracking it forward into my career. So I graduated with a degree in communications and a minor in public administration. And basically that means nothing to the business world. And so I really had to decide on, what did I wanted to do and what I wanted to go into. And then I literally fell into recruiting like most people do. Had a very much, sales mindset, knew I wanted to do something in business, knew I liked helping other people out, putting them in a better position. And so when I first graduated college, I got my start at an internship, this huge M&A advisory firm, basically doing recruiting, sourcing for a bunch of these different sales reps all across the nation for independent insurance agencies. And then while doing that, I was about to intern there 2.5, 3 years, kind of just elongating my time there. And then once I saw we were interviewing more interns one day, and then we ended up hiring more interns. It was pretty common. And then I had my boss at the time. She ended up, tapping me on the shoulder. She said, hey, Adam, come in here real quick. And I go, what's up? I thought I was in trouble. I thought I did something wrong with a client or a candidate. And she basically said, hey, sit down real quick. There was 2 Jesses in the interview process, and I sent the offer letter to the wrong Jess. And she was frantic at the time. I said, hey, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. It's just an internship. And then little did I know that time, that person would eventually be my wife, and her parents are in the recruiting business as well too. And so, essentially she got into the business. Jess Klug is her name now. But yeah, we just ended up meeting each other there. And then through that too, kind of how my journey went into it, is saying that, we met each other there, the recruiting internship. And then essentially I met her parents at a tailgate, had a little bit one too many going in there, to be real with you.
Well, because you were saying that they said it was a tailgate, to be fair, right?
Yeah.
And so you're coming with a buddy thinking like it's party time.
Yeah, I thought it was, hey, everyone is invited to this tailgate. Everyone's going to show up. Everyone's going to be there. And turns out I was the only intern that went with my other buddy at the time. It was just us two and basically all her friends and some of her family members that were there too. So I was like, all right, kind of nervous going up to it, but I'm not, not afraid of a challenge. I'm like, all right, I knew I liked her at the time, went up, started talking with her mom, started talking about what I did, what I'm doing, what I'm looking for after I graduate. And she goes, wow, you seem like not the perfect guy, but the perfect candidate to having the business.
The perfect candidate. Forget about the daughter.
And so I was like, all right, well, I'm flattered, right? At the time, I'm like, oh, this could maybe be something, but it's all the way. I was in West Michigan. It's all on the east side. So I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to move out there. And then like I was telling her mom, of course, I really like what you're saying. Thank you for the opportunity, but hey, I do like your daughter too. And so, that just kind of squashed the kibosh right there.
Yeah.
And then fast tracking to where I'm at today, we're essentially all working together in the same business. So my wife Jess and I, and then her parents, Lynn and Rod. And so the whole, the plan over time is, basically be in their position, take over the office, and they've been great. They have a great business model, and just keep driving it. So it's crazy. I never thought, life would happen out for this, like personal and work, but it's a lot of work, super challenging, but it's fun. There's obviously a lot of things that go in the mix of that, but where I'm at today, it's kind of cool to see the whole journey from where I was at
from that start to
now.
finish.
Yeah.
Well, and you said something right from the very beginning, and it's like, okay, like I shouldn't even dove into that story. There's so much to unpack here, right? And so just like coming from high school and being like, not thinking college is a route for you, like, and you said like, I didn't think I'd be in recruiting. What were you thinking coming out of high school? And then, what was it that friend said that got you to kind of switch your perspective?
Yeah. So so growing up on the farm actually was always somewhat of an entrepreneur, because me and my brother, we helped all the time at the South Bend Farmers Market by Notre Dame in Indiana. And then later on, we actually bought the booth, one of the booths for the farmers market down in South Bend that actually my brother still runs because he lives down there with his job too. And so always had that side, and, at that time, or, selling our produce right at the market. But then, we had all these extra produce too. And basically we said, all right, we have all this extra inventory, extra product. What do we do out with it? And not knowing at the time, I said, hey, let's go to our local stores, grocery stores, to try to, sell the extra produce so it doesn't go rotten. And hey, we can still make a buck out of it, right? At a good rate for the stores. So that's what we did. So I was kind of doing outside, B2B sales when that was before I had a car.
Wow.
Yeah. Me and my brother were driving around. That was probably 13, 14, 15, and then had the car obviously 16. And you
had that idea at like 13, let's sell this to the stores.
Exactly. Yeah. Me and my brother were just trying to figure out a ways, either selling the stuff to the store, selling it to other farms, other little farm stands. So, having that in our mind, was always something, because just that we saw like our parents or our grandparents growing up, they just ran the farm alone. And they basically just had all a cash business, and they depended on it. I'm like, all right, let's see if we can, make this thing work and still run with it. And, hey, let's make some extra coin in the meantime when we're high school. And we thought we're living large, in middle school, high school, bringing all this money in. And then, so I didn't really think about that, in high school a lot. And then, when I transitioned, what you asked me, from high school to college, like, where's my transition? What was I going to do? I kind of looked at it all right, hey, a lot of people where I grew up either worked at, the tool and die or the manufacturer, or there's a big nuclear plant that we grew up. So it's like you easily go in there, make a good living, do that. And I've always had this feeling, or I've always had this like, I don't know, mantra that goes around me, or it's, I always want to do something different, or be better in a way. And so, this is one of, I think, more rebellious stage when I was in high school. I'm like, I'm going to move away from my parents, move to Grand Rapids, go to college and do that. So I think that had to deal a little with it. And then, once I got into college, my mom was a police officer growing up. So I went directly, like my mom's my hero. So I directly went into criminal justice. And then I took one class and figured out it was not for me.
It only took one class. That's amazing.
I think most of it was having to do, what was the big pinning the cushion. It was like APA style formatting. And so I was writing all factual, a big like kind of fluffer, big, writing emails with some like, substance in it rather than like, these are the facts. But yeah, I figured out that was not doing it for me. And then just remember I had like a debate class, I had like a communication studies, and then just some other classes that were just kind of more, general education. Mm-hmm. And I just really got drawn to, I think how most people do, just drawn to like a teacher or a professor that was there. Danielle Leak, I still remember, is my debate teacher. And ever since that, she became like my personal advisor. Wasn't advising, but she kind of took me under her wing to lead through like all the courses. And ever since then, I was talking with her, hey, what should I do in, what path should I go down? She's like, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to do something in sales or get yourself out there, because you cannot be, just
stuck behind a desk. Yeah.
So, that's how it all kind of came to be. And then I was just applying to positions like crazy. I think I did. And I think this is helpful too for people getting out of college, and a lot of like students that we help out is, I applied to everything. I put myself in very uncomfortable situations or uncomfortable interviews, and I would just take them just to take them, just to know, how the interview went or how I can do better, and just always asking those questions. And then, when it kind of came to be, and I was interviewing for a lot of these either sales positions or recruiting positions, and just lined up that, recruiting, my personality, my style, and the fact that, essentially I get to help people every day, all day, employment, and put themselves, their community, their business, really affects everything in their whole life into a better spot. Yeah. If I could be the 1 little % that helps them do that, okay, that's the most rewarding, thing that I can do basically. And, spend my time, like serve my life that way too. So it's, I do not regret being in it. And now I've been in it for a little about, I think it's been 9 years so far since I've been recruiting and out in the trenches.
Well, and I love this conversation. I had this thought the other day, and it's always there, but I had this thought, and the next day I woke up and literally the TV was on and the news was on, and they had these are the 4 professions where people are the happiest. And I'll tell you that in a second. But the night before I went to bed thinking like, we rob our kids of any creativity in the sense of like, there's these 4 things you can do when you grow up. You can be a policeman, a fireman, a lawyer, a professional athlete. You think about a nurse, a doctor. We put so many boxes around what they can do. Yeah. Nobody talked about being a recruiter when you grew up. Nobody talked about being a business coach when I grew up. Nobody talked about like the things that you can do to create businesses as an entrepreneur and like serve the world in different ways, other than these like 6 main categories. And then I woke up that next day and the news was on. I was walking to go make my coffee, and I heard him say, these are the top 4 professions where people are the happiest. And I froze in my tracks. Like it caught my attention because my radar was on, and it was doctor, nurse, teacher, and fireman are the 4 happiest professions that you can be. Yeah. Do you think that a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, and a nurse right now are the happiest professions that you can be in life?
I would say out of all of them, maybe the firefighter.
Maybe the firefighter
is probably the top choice, but the rest is no.
But then how much money are they making?
Yeah. That's the other part of
40 grand, 50 maybe?
If not, maybe. Less than that.
Less than that, or they're volunteering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those people are super happy because they're doing their passion, right? But they're not making any money at it. Exactly. And so you just think about how much we put our kids in a box of like, these are the 6 things you can do. Have fun at it. And you're never going to be a professional athlete. So have fun. You're going to spend all your childhood dreaming on that, and it's never going to happen. Yeah.
Well, it's even that, there's some studies out right now, because the way, I grew up with my parents is saying, we, as millennials, we always get ripped on for doing the job hoppingness. But then, put yourself in kind of that millennial shoes. Basically what we saw a lot of our parents or our grandparents go through, either through the recession, is, hey, my mom, let's say, for example, worked for a job for 20 years and then she was just let go for no reason one day. Yeah. And so, I'm not saying that's where all the issue of trust and, the employee being, loyal to the employer. But why
wouldn't that be where it came from?
Yeah. And
you saw it happen.
Yeah. And so if that's, if I'm affected by it personally, if there's others, in the kind of the same era generation that you're affected, then it, it's you kind of lose trust in companies that way, that are not going to treat you right. And then also, like, you put people in boxes too. with, the college education or people getting their diplomas. For me, it was like, all right, you're getting pushed all the way through, middle school, high school, saying, hey, you need a diploma, college education, basically. And then now looking back the stats right now, I mean, there's about 50% of, students that aren't even going to college. So where, how does that factor into the recruiting, the employment side? And then, is, not being an electrician, a plumber, something in skilled trades, CNC, right?
Yeah.
Those are very valuable jobs that we need, but sometimes, it's not viewed as from the parent perspective or, from whoever's the mentor, in that relationship. And so, it is definitely interesting how things change over time. And shoot, I mean, to your point with teachers, nurses, doctors through COVID, I mean, that
are they really the happiest of their profession? You think about it, probably not. And then I didn't think I was going to be a salesperson. I didn't say my whole life I want to be a salesperson, but like yourself, it's like there's certain things that I'm good at, and it's like talking to people, listening to people, those kinds of things that like lended to that profession.
Exactly.
But nobody ever talks about it.
No.
And sales is a great profession to be in.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you look at, looking at even, recruiting is a lot like sales, and sales is a lot like, recruiting too. It's may not, you're not selling to the client every day, but hey, you're reaching out to someone to, potentially change their career or put them in a position, to have that next career move. And so that's huge for someone that can make a huge, huge impact. And that could either make a huge impact in a positive way, but if you put them in a wrong spot, in a negative way too. So, I'm loving it so far.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. It's awesome. Like you said, you get to help people every day, but then you get to help companies too. Find the right people.
And that's almost, I would say, half the battle. Sometimes we always start with a simple premise of you can't find that person if you don't know what you're looking for. It sounds super simple. But when it comes down to it, when we're talking with our clients, and that could be the hiring manager, it could be HR, it could be the business owner, CFO, whoever it is, sometimes they come to us, our clients come to us, say, hey, we need, for example, we need this, financial controller. They need this experience with this software. They need this many years in experience, which is all great, that, the job postings, the job descriptions, the in and outs. But most of the time they don't fully explain, what the actual person, they're looking for, or what success looks like in the role.
Yeah.
And so, that's a one go-to question that I always go to is, what does success look like in this role? Either that's after 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, because, if I'm putting someone in this position, they want to know what it takes to be successful, right? Even for, sale, any type of position really, even if it is just crunching numbers at the end of the day. So it's, it's a lot of, we're the middle person to the middle person between the candidate and the client, but it is a lot of coaching, not only on, the candidate's end, just how crazy the market has been with the lowest unemployment ever, but it's also on the client side too. It's, hey, you're looking for that person, they want to hit all your, top 10 laundry list requirements. All right, we can do that. It's going to take a really, really long time. Or, hey, what are the must-haves that you have to have in the position, and what are those kind of nice-to-haves preferred? And all right, what type of personality, what type of culture fit or culture add are you looking for? So it's a lot that goes through it, rather than, hey, we need this person, they need this years of experience. All right, go find them. Basically, we're trying to be the extension to their team and say, all right, well, if we put ourselves in the candidate shoes, all right, what else does your team need to be successful? And then what essentially does this person need to be successful? And what are all the fine tunings in between? So it's that's a
fun is that? Kind of like the middleman. It's like one of those things, like you're like coaching both sides, right?
It's a struggle, because I always say this to people too. It's the best way to put it is, people are the most predictable products in the world. It is the only product that can change its mind last second. And that can either be on the you could get someone, let's say on the candidate side, you get someone right there. They had the best offer. We just went through this last week. We got a person, they were making around 72K. We got an offer for 100K. So like compensation, holy crap, it's there. Oh, but by then, and then another thing that happened on top of it was our client paid for all relocation, gave a sign-on bonus for like 10 grand.
On top of the 100.
On top of the 100. And, essentially got better benefits, got a 401k plan, like everything was, how can you turn down this offer? And then, the candidate reaches back out to us. Hey, I like 120,000. I'm like, okay, you give someone an inch, they're going to go a mile. But it's consulting with that person. Like, hey, we can try to talk about this with our client. We can try to do this, but just letting you know, if we go back and ask for this too, there's a high probability that this isn't going to happen. And this is going to be a hard time to push this through. And so it's, negotiating with people that way, because you could have something wrapped up. You're like, oh, this is great. This person's definitely going to accept it. And then, someone else could be having those second thoughts, or we always get, oh, I got to talk with my spouse, or I got to talk with the family, which is a totally valid reason. I'm not knocking that.
Yeah.
But our recruiter language, like, oh my gosh, one more hurdle to overcome. And the same thing can happen for us, the client side. They could say, all right, now that we interviewed these three great people, it's great that we did that, because now we figured out what we really want, and now it's this. It changes everything up. And so it's a delicate balance of, the people obviously looking for a career, and then, the clients looking to bring that person on. It's just trying to make the puzzles fit, the puzzle pieces fit is like, that's the hardest part about it. I mean, finding the talent is easy. Finding great clients is, somewhat easy too. It's just matching those things together. Essentially
it's actually then solving the problem. And yeah,
that's probably why we have a job at the end of the day. But yeah. So it's, when the highs are highs, the lows are lows, the same thing in sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're trying to make two things come together.
No, but it's always been a fun challenge to do, because, ultimately it's cool to see, what I get out of it, or kind of what's my why behind it. I can look back, either 5 years or, 6-7 years ago, or even, a couple of weeks ago, and say, all right, hey, this person that I put in the position, there's often times where I'll look back and say, where's this person now? What are they doing with their career? And it's really cool to, some people that I put in a position, hey, they either moved up in their company, now they're a manager, a leader, or now they're a business owner, and what that looks like, and just having different conversations, connecting on that level. And so that's been, really interesting to hear. It's, hey, just checking in, catching up. How's everything going? And then, basically they go throughout their whole career. And then, a few people, it's the heartfelt moment. A few people come back to me. They're like, Adam, I would have never gotten this if it wasn't for like you, or your team members that put me in this position. And that's, obviously the money's great and the client relationships and candidate relationships. But when someone comes back to you and saying, wow, you either really changed my life or put me in a position to change it in one way or another. And then also, by the way, the client's, ecstatic and they were able to make this impact or drive this much value. That's where I get the kick out of it right there. It doesn't happen until after the fact.
Yeah.
Cause it's pretty thankless. Like, all right, hey, you found me the person. All right, now work on something else for me, or hey, we'll call you when we need you.
Yeah.
And so just to get that feedback is like, that's probably the best thing ever about the job.
It's so awesome. Like I feel you, because like last week I had a couple of just messages out of the blue, and it's like, yeah, we all need money, but this is like, I wake up and do this because I get these messages,
exactly.
Like somebody achieving their dream, or like moving a rock that they didn't think was possible.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's awesome. And now I get to see it, not only on the client side, but I get to see it. Now I have a team of 4, to help them through, some I just have, for example, I have 2 sourcers that Veronica and Matt, they're just starting off their careers. Veronica's brand new to recruiting. Matt was an intern, hired him on our team too. And then 2 recruiters that are more seasoned, more experienced, Mike and Chris. Yeah. And it's cool to see, obviously, them collaborate together, share best practices. Oh, this is what I learned in my career of recruiting. And then, having their fresh mindset, basically saying, oh, I think we should do this, this, and that, and kind of going different routes and being able to, not only make an impact on them, but, for them, eventually to get,
to have a team, you're sharpening each other's stone,
exactly.
your sword, and that's so awesome. And then so cool. So I met I met Adam. I met you at the Plymouth Chamber event. It was
yeah.
probably like July, August, somewhere around there.
Something hot, yeah.
It was something warm because we were standing outside in shorts. That was awesome. So then, like a few weeks later, a friend that I've had for 16 years posts on LinkedIn how he's starting this new career in recruiting and working for this awesome guy named Adam. And I'm like, no way. Like how the world comes together. And, for the listeners, I talk about this all the time. It's like when you're aligned, when you're meeting the right people, it's so crazy how small the world is and how those connections come together. So super cool. So when you refer to Mike, Mike Balger has been a friend of mine for years. He was at my bachelor party. He managed my wife, and I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him because, and I mentioned to you a little bit ago, and shout out for Mike. I'm sure you'll be listening to the episode, but
he better
be Mike. You better be listening. He was, I told you, the only manager in this company that I worked for, and he kind of gave me hope. And then he had given me a shout out to the leader in our company that when they were looking for a manager in a role that led me into a leadership position that changed my whole entire life. And then having a support guy like Mike around and being able to learn and grow, like we were at the same time, like we were both on the same age and in the same age of this company where it was about to blow up, and so it was cool to be a part of that at the same time. And, and he's just been one of those guys that I've over the years always stayed connected with, and so it was super awesome hearing. Like it's super cool to see cool people connected.
Exactly, and that was I'm trying to think. I got connected through Mike by I think it was an old work colleague through a cornhole tournament. So it's like I knew Mike for even before I ended up hiring him on for, I think it was like a year, like 2 years before. And then
That's crazy.
I was always like touching base and he was always keeping up. And, I've always tried, recruiting him a little bit there. And then it just kind of worlds collided together. He said, hey, I'm looking for a new position. Let's go out to lunch and let's make things happen. Cause it is, I would say, interesting in my position too. I'm call it how I see it. I'm a younger guy, right? In a new leadership position. And basically, what the setup that I had going into, our business is that essentially it was a new division that our company was launching, this professional recruiting. And so I didn't start off with any candidates, any clients. They basically said, hey, welcome. Here's your desk. Go out and go get business. And so, obviously had to get the business.
Here's your book of business. It opens it up. No filing cabinet. Nothing in the filing cabinet.
Yeah. Or it's left over by the person that was in that position before. All their stuff in there. But it's so that was, that was tough. But, getting through that, it's like, all right, I got to, validate myself, pay for myself and everything. And then just thinking about the team members that you want on your team. Obviously, I'm in the recruiting business, right? So I'm recruiting for my clients. And then when, taking that internally, people should think, oh, it should almost be the same thing. It's a way different thing. I feel like I'm way stricter, or I don't know the right words to use, but either stricter or just more, it's, I take it personal, right? Like, hey, whoever I bring on my team, they're like family to me. And since this was kind of, a well-established company, but kind of a new division that we're growing, I got to have people in the mindset of saying, all right, hey, this is going to be, something that's new, that's growing. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. There's going to be, that right mentality where it's like, hey, we got to go out and get business or, win business either on the client side or the candidate side every day, all day. And we all got to be in lockstep together. Yeah. And so, definitely Mike brought that to the team, but everyone that I've, brought to the team has that, our goal is to hit 1 million this year, for example. So everyone in their mind, it's like every day we're always constant, like, all right, where are we at in the 1 million? Are we closer? Are we closer today? What's setting us back? And so all those conversations are going, but it's just amazing. It too, when you put the right people in the right spots, have the right mindset, and just, can work together and communicate and trust each other. It's like, that's where the magic happens right there. So, and it takes the stress off of me for.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah. Well, so, and you mentioned, being a younger guy.
Yeah.
How do you bring in people that are older? Like, how did you adjust to that? How did you think about that from a mindset standpoint?
Yeah, that's fun. It's funny that you asked, because actually I had one of my interns, Matt, just graduated from Wayne State. And to bring up Mike again though, too, he's like, hey, is it weird to manage people that are older than you? And I'm like, it's funny that you brought that up. I've never even thought about that before, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the mission. This is what we're doing right now. So, for me, it was more of, all right, I've never, you got to ask any of my teammates, I never want to be, too big or too little for someone. I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, I'm in my office, have this manager title and I'm, managing from above or anything like that. Small team as it is. For me, is saying, all right, I know what I'm good at, what I'm bad at. All right, I always want to hire people no matter what that are way better than me, that are way more talented than me, because I know if I get those people in, if I can get those people in, imagine how much, selfishly I'll grow, but then the business as a whole will grow. So I mean, Mike came with awesome experience. He was more, obviously working with you, but more on like the corporate side of the company side of recruiting.
Yeah.
And then, he brought a lot of perspectives in, okay, working with hiring managers internally, right? Or just a lot of the process procedures. I mean, he brought that he made when he was doing a lot of the recruiting for the retail stores. And so brought a lot of that knowledge in that, I needed, because I'm, very gung ho. But then, Mike, for example, hey, we need to get these process procedures. We need to get all these things set up first. So that was awesome. And it really is. I mean, going back to your question, it's just, meeting people where they're at, figuring out, all right, simple enough, what they're good at, what they're not good at. And then how can, one person to another, how can they leverage the skills and do that? And then from there, okay, let's play to the strengths. Let's play what we're good at. We know what we're good at. We know what we're not good at. So let's spend time on what we're good at and let's just double down. Let's plan and then execute after it. So that's
so huge.
Yeah, it just came in as kind of a shotgun blast and saying, all right. And then now looking back, it's like, holy crap, here we're doing it. And then every day is like a whirlwind.
So how did you have a good mentor? Did this something that just kind of clicked for you? Like, did you stub your toe? Like I had to stub my toe over and over before I realized any of this stuff. And this is all great leadership advice for somebody listening and how to be a leader and how to scale a business the proper way.
Yeah. I mean, I learned, I think from a lot of bad leaders.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of good leaders. I mean, definitely did have, I know one of my mentors out there, worked with him at a past company, Brian Eggleston. So Brian, if you're watching this, appreciate you, brother. And so he's the one that kind of took me under his shoulder, from my internship, and recruiting wise and sales wise. So definitely I learned a lot from him, just to be, persistent and consistent and just basically, all right, sounds silly, but, visualizing your goals. Okay, where do you want to do? What do you want to do? How are you going to get there? What resources, time, talent do you need to basically get you to that next position? And so definitely him. I'd probably say I have a lot of stories from just like the National Guard, Army, really good leaders that were there. So I definitely took, a lot of that away, just in the real world essentially. And so, one of my biggest things is just, like they did in the National Guard, just being transparent with your people. Even when you're not sure what's going on or what's happening, I tell them, hey, I'm not sure about this. I don't know what's going on. Or if you don't know the answer to the question, hey, I don't know that, but that's a great question. Let me get back to you. And nothing's too big or too small. And it's just, I would say, I get locked in, I get focused during my day, but at the same time, hey, if one of your team members goes and interrupts you, I'm leaving my desk and I'm saying, all right, hey, what can I help you with? What do you need? Or, basically how can I be a resource for you? And so just being there, being transparent and being consistent is, what I found to be, really good goals. And then obviously I'll be remiss if I didn't say my in-laws too. a selfish plug in there, but no, they've helped me. They've definitely helped me out a lot. They've owned the business since 2008. So they've seen a lot of ups and downs and, different, culture being in a bad culture, ramping up to a better culture where they're at. And so it's, it's just really just taking bits and pieces of everything and then, making it your own into your own style. So. Yeah.
Yeah, it's killer. Man, it's huge. And what you had said, like when you don't know an answer or when you're unsure, there's some times where you're not sure, but you can go get the answer. And you'll get back to them, right?
Exactly.
There's those moments where like a lot of leaders feel like they've got to be strong or they've got to have the answer, and instead of being vulnerable in that moment,
Yeah.
they try to portray strength, but then people see that.
Exactly. Yeah.
They see through it.
Or what you don't want is basically, hey, you're saying things that aren't true, right? Then everyone's talking behind your back, and there's this group think that's going on, and you never know that. So, for me, I always want to be, proactive, get out in front of everything before it even happens. And if I can do that, and if, people see me not only as, I would say internally as just a manager or kind of a leader of the company, but also saying, all right, hey, he is that person, but he also has my best interests in mind.
Yeah.
And he's, is there for me not only at work, but as a person too. If there's some way, I know there's a bunch of talk about work-life balance and, finding that piece together.
Yeah.
But if there's certain ways you can piece it together where, work doesn't come over too powering, but, how can you mix that personal work, or personal life into that work life, and figure out, how to make that person still feel human at the day, and they're just not one of your employees. So that's a lot of work.
It is, but that's summing it up in general, like realizing that they're human and they're not just an employee.
Exactly.
I think when you can keep that perspective and realize that you have humans, and you had said that from the very beginning of like, it's kind of like that, not an employee mindset. I'm on the same level as everybody else, right?
Yep.
And you're there to help and serve. And if somebody needs your help, you're going to go serve them.
Exactly. Well, I was gonna, just a little example is saying, so we work in kind of an open office, and so there's cubicles everywhere. And being recruiters, you're there on the phone or clients, it gets loud in our office.
Yeah.
And so, my team was saying, it's great that it's loud and everything. Love the noise, love the communication, but also, when we're having these conversations, we don't want, someone to pick up that, another conversation is just drowning out ours. Right. So, we're, I guess, in the process right now, but it's, I went out and bought $300 Bose headphones, because I'm like, hey, this is what we need to do our job, and this is something that's a huge concern, and you guys are talking about every day. Like, all right, let's fix the problem. Let's cut it. Let's cut it off right here and try to find something. And so it's just simple things like that, or it could be another thing we do in our office, just giving people the day off for their birthday.
Super
right.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't, as you, I guess, grow up, your birthday becomes, somewhat less important.
Yeah.
Except for those big milestones. But you can't imagine, like, every time we say like, well, what'd you do on your birthday? What'd you do on your day off? Right. People always have like some cool stories or what they did or hung out with family or something, something that's, fun to do rather than, hey, we're going to throw you, here's a birthday cake, and we still do that. But, here's presents and everything like that. So just a few, like, just little examples of, just takeaways that people can snag and easy stuff to do. It doesn't break the bank.
It doesn't have to break the bank.
Yeah.
It's not really, people will say, what do you motivate? I've always asked people, what are you motivated by as a leader? Like, what motivates you? And people are always like, money. But at the end of the day, they can say that all day, but I could throw as much money on the pot. If I throw an experience, if I throw an adventure, if I throw something that I know that they're looking at, if I turn that money into a thing that I know is going to push them, it's just different.
Yeah, no. And that's the same thing for me too. It's, outside, we even ask candidates this too in our interview process. But, internally and externally, we say, hey, take money off the table.
Yeah.
Right. Why are you willing to take this offer? Or, why would you be willing to take this other career opportunity? What are those, hard hitting factors, everything outside of compensation? Cause I know we all don't work for free at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But what do those look like? And then, hopefully you kind of, what I say, peel back the onion, but hopefully you get to know someone better, their personal interests. And then, even when it comes to, recognition in our office, some people like to be recognized, privately or handwritten messages. And then others like to be publicly recognized in front of everyone. But if you flip flop that, if you take someone that likes, that private recognition and put them in public, that could feel really awkward, put them in a really awkward space. And, they may not want to hear that, even though it's a good thing that's going on. So just getting back to like, hey, all right, what's the, personal interest, or what's this person's goals outside of work, their personal goals. I have some people that either want to buy a house or get a car or save up for that. All right, well, let's figure out your goals internally to see how you can hit that goal for your personal life externally, and let's figure it out together, and I'll help along the way.
It's caring about your people.
Yeah.
And then they feel comfortable even telling you what their goals and dreams are, because how many employers don't even know what their employees are going through, what they're saving up for, what they're going after.
Exactly. And that's, even in my one-to-ones, that's what I talk about. It's, I don't just go in there and say, all right, tell me everything you did in the last 90 days or last month, or whatever it may be. It's more, okay, hey, how's everything at home? Mm-hmm. How's everything going? How's your dog? Oh, I know that your dog's name's Stella. How's Stella doing? I know everyone's spouse's names or kids' names, or at least try to as much as I can.
Yeah.
And then, just starting out the conversation like that, because, they shouldn't feel like, hey, they have to, basically, be chained to a desk or chained to work every day. And then, I can go relax. Like, hey, you're winning out. Hey, you're winning inside of work, you're winning outside of work. Hey, even if you're losing, we're still going to figure out a way. This is why we have a team environment.
Yeah. This
is why you have other people to lean on. Let's figure this out. Let's get this going together, so it doesn't cause that much stress or pressure or burden on someone. So
that's a huge piece that you mentioned I want to go back to too, is having that team, because another perspective as a leader that you have to have in order to grow a successful business is that it's not about the ego. It's about as you add the pieces of the team, it's the strength of the team. You talked about earlier, like as you've added pieces on your team, they've had different strengths outside of you. Before we went on, you're talking about bringing on Mike and how Mike is way different than you, in how at first you're like, is this going to slow me down? No, it's going to make me faster, right?
Yeah. And so that's always interesting too, because I think, as we're looking at, who do we bring into the organization, one tool, it's not the end all be all, but it's, we use the DISC. So, for example, I'm a, high D, high I on the DISC.
Yep.
Mike is C and S. So he's very analytical, process focused that way. And so when coming in, I was at first just, getting clients, trying to do the best documentation I was doing, but probably not the best documentation.
You're not documenting at all.
Yeah. It's horrible. I'm getting a lot better at it. I have to force myself to do better at it though.
Yeah.
And then, he came in and we're like, all right, hey, let's, within our applicant track system, let's build out, a phone screen, questions or something we have to write out. So we have that all track that we can go back to, or, we're bringing on a new client. We have these questions we ask, but let's get this formalized, make it a SOP. Let's make it our job order intake form, right?
You're like, SOP.
What does that mean? And so it's all the things, I think it's like all the things as a leader, I knew I need to have in place over time.
Yeah.
But there's never, for my personality, there was never the right time to go ahead and do that.
Yep.
Right. And so that, going back to your point, bringing in Mike or someone like him saying, hey, kind of putting the pressure on me, right? Hey, you should really think about this. You really think about doing this. I'm like, all right, cool. And then to see it in action and then seeing it rolled out, as we're still doing it, and everyone's like, oh, this is great. Now I have, someone else on my team that's very, very much like Mike, very, calculated and process folks in a good way.
Yeah.
And it's, you just find those people, right? Where you have someone that's, my colleague, Chris, he's very much, that I would say motivation guy. And he's always, sticking his limb out or, sticking his hand up to basically say, hey, I went through that situation before. Here's what I did to it. Here's what I did to it. Or here's what I'm going through. Here's what I would recommend or don't do. So all that stuff, the more that basically we can be open with each other, the more that we can communicate or trust each other. And then in that, what we've been doing is building just a ton of accountability, right? Because all this stuff is great. You have all these goals in mind and everything, but if you don't have the accountability there, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we got this goal, but how we're going to hit this goal. And so all that's broken down to, individually now, and everyone needs to, or everyone knows that, what numbers they need to hit or how many people they need to talk to or how many people they need to place, right, if we're going to hit this goal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I think that's not only important, but, being accountable and being visible and having that everyone share the same mentality. So, hey, if there's one chink in the armor, hey, all right, let's go address it right away before it snaps. Or even, all right, we're doing great. why are we doing so great?
Yeah.
And so let's look back on that either week to week, month to month, and holy crap, we crushed our numbers. All right, how can we do more of this to get where we're going? Which is huge. Yeah.
That is so huge. There's a lot of people that will have success in business and they don't take that time to understand how. And I had guest Kevin Sabaski on a couple weeks ago, and he had said like he had started out in the IT business and he had a ton of success, and he was like miserable because he's like, I have no idea how I'm even doing this. And he was like, when I started failing, he was like, I was finally happy. I was like, this sounds about right. This is where I should be. Like he didn't understand what he was doing in order to create that success. So to be able to like break that anatomy down.
Yeah.
What are we doing right now to create that? And then you have a standard operating procedure, right?
And it's just like, it's going through all of that. And it's like, you don't think it's big at the time, right? But all right, hey, if we get more, I'm just speaking about numbers. Hey, if we get more accountable, we know our numbers, know our data, or imagine how, if we keep doing this consistently enough for for a long time, imagine how much data we can use and use it to our advantage, right? When other either positions that we're helping them with out there, we're working with on the candidate side too. So it is it's a lot of work, that is for sure. And, reportings, Excel spreadsheets are not my favorite thing, but I'm willing to take time to figure out and do it. And that's the main thing. I mean, if you don't take the time, why your, employee is going to take the time, why is your team going to take the time? If you're not, leading by example and doing it.
Yeah. I used to say I'd never ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself.
Yeah. And I think,
and they wouldn't see me doing. It's not that I wouldn't just say that I would do it. They would see me doing it.
Exactly. And that's even going back to the accountable part. Like we'll meet pretty much every day in the morning or sometimes even, at late in the day. I'm like, all right, what's our goal for the day? All right, let's come to each other. Do we hit our goal for the day?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We did. How do we do it? Why was that the case? If not, okay, what was the challenge? What was the barriers that we need to get there? But it's not only, my team's saying it, but I'm saying like, I got so many sales calls I want to do a day. And it's, I'm tying myself accountable to the team too. It's like, shoot, if I don't hit, my goals, the team is not going to hit their goals and vice versa. So, and I think that, what I kind of said, like being on the same playing field or being shoulder to shoulder with people. I mean, that's the proof in the pudding right there. Cause it's more
you're
like,
on the court.
Hey, let's go. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So
I'm
not any Larry Bird or anything like that. I wish I was. Maybe with my basketball hoop against the office door or something, but
practice some shots up.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean it's a lot of work, but it is a ton of fun though too.
Man, it's fun when you alluded to it before we even went a little bit deeper. You're like, it's so much fun when you have the right people in place, right?
Yeah.
And when you have the right things going on, the right structure, and it's just kind of clicking.
Yep. Yeah. And I feel like we definitely have that right now, but there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be challenges, that occur, that pop up. But it is saying it's, when I came and joined the business, I'm like, all right, hey, I kind of have that startup mentality. Let's start this things up together. I'm more looking not for employees. I'm looking for partners to help come and join and build this thing together. Mm-hmm. And then when I was recruiting, the people I have on my team, they understood that. They're like, oh, I'm not just, being another recruiter out there or doing, working on another position or anything like that. Like we're coming here to grow and build something and to not, prove anything with a chip on our shoulder, but we kind of have that mentality of saying, hey, we're all focused day in, day out, what we're going to do. Let's go to try to do it. If we all win, that's awesome. We all win. If one of us loses, we all lose. I mean, that's the mentality we have. And that's, I don't know. I mean, that's awesome. Cause that's what I envisioned. That's why I wanted it to be, Dude. But I just didn't know. You just never know how things are going to come up. So.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes ever is from the A-Team. Was one of my favorite TV shows when I was a kid. Yeah. Like the late Colonel, the late Colonel Hannibal, John Hannibal Smith, right? Used to say, "I love it when a plan comes together."
Exactly.
Like, I love it when a plan comes together, right?
Yeah. And so it is just really planning and then executing, right? Like it is simple as that, but then what makes it hard is that all the road bumps, the challenges, the things that come in place. So for example, during COVID, I mean, we lost our business overnight, like 70% of our business overnight. And so it was, how do we bounce back from that? How do we go back to that adversity? I was saying, maybe people that aren't hiring on, but they still need to get projects done. They still need to do things. So let's shift up our mentality from doing a lot of these direct hire permanent placement to more these contract to hire, type positions to, hey, fill the project in the meantime. But, the client doesn't have to hire on someone right away. And so it's just adapting to the environment that you're in. And I said, all right, if we can get past COVID when recruiting, when either no one wants to work or no one wants to hire people, all right,
you can do anything.
We can do anything.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge part.
And it probably rebounded quite big after that.
Yeah. I mean, last year was a good year. It was a great year. I was like, last year was a great year. It's probably why our goals are so high this year, but we got more people now. So, but yeah, it's, I mean, it's just interesting coming into this position because I don't necessarily felt, in a weird way, like I was ready at all.
Yeah.
I helped manage people in the past, help train and mentor people too. But then it's actually like, okay, now you're the person, go out and build your division, go out and do it, and see what happens. It's that was kind of a scary point where I was just like, all right, I know I can do it. I feel that I can do it. Let's work as hard as I can and let's try to make this thing happen. And it's been going. I mean, I'm only in year 2 of this team and building the team, going through it, but just the momentum that we have right now is crazy. We're almost at the goal that we hit last year for revenue wise. It's just March.
Yeah.
So
wow.
It's insane.
That's awesome. So kind of taking back, you're at this tailgate and you meet your future in-laws, right? And so you're having this conversation. What happens after that? Like, what's that? Because there's obviously you went to go work for them.
Yeah.
What happened in between there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I would say I fell in love with my wife. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, literally, yeah.
Literally. So, so basically, after college, I got recruited in by the place I worked for an internship. And so, and then my wife was still working she was working in Holland, Michigan at Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper Keurig. She was a corporate recruiter over there. And then, we were just dating each other. And then I've always met her parents, and I knew her parents were in the recruiting, like staffing business too. And we would always talk and have conversations. So I always knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, hey, if this girl's the one, then this could be a real opportunity. But I never, for the longest time, I always wanted to split up personal and work.
Yeah.
Up aside each other, even like, relationships and work and stuff too. And then from there, in my last position, I was doing really, really well. It's probably making way too much money than what I should be for my age. And just, hitting all these, crazy numbers, crazy strides, was, in a best spot. But I think, personally wise or like mentally wise, mentally fit or anything like that, probably wasn't the best because I was getting, burned out. Right. And just wasn't, I was just going on basically a hamster wheel. It felt like, all right, hey, I'm really good at what I do. And it's like, all right, this is sad to say, but it's like close another deal. And I just didn't, as time went on, I didn't really feel like that either like personally fulfilled anymore. Or I just felt like, all right, I'm just going to keep doing this. And this is going to be, it
wasn't lighting you up. It wasn't filling your cup. Like I see you now talking about what you're doing and talking about your team and like your eyes are lit up. Yeah.
And so it's not, and it's nothing personally against, the other company I was with. It was just more, saying, looking at this opportunity, I looked at myself, and especially, joining the in-laws and joining my wife in business. It was saying, all right, I can be doing all the same things. I get the challenge in where, okay, I get to build this thing from the ground up. That was really exciting to me. I love the fact of doing that. Worked in a startup before. So love that, just like tenacity, grit, just growing something from the ground up. And then also too, I think from I always hate to say like work-life balance or just like from the, mental side or just like, feeling well, essentially, a lot of that came from, I was working, early mornings, late nights, working in the office in downtown Detroit, like, 30, 40 minute commute. And then I could say, okay, if I can, somehow it's still going to be a grind on this side to, start up everything again. But in the future, if I can somehow capture more of that work-life balance, or if I can build something that's going to be sustainable and I have, the path to ownership or opportunity to ownership that way, obviously it still doesn't take away maybe the burden of working long days, working hours. It just changes for me. It changes the mindset of what I'm doing. Yeah. And it's the reasons why I'm building it. Right. And I'm not, that was the huge like mentality shift for me. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm working hard. I'm working long hours doing this, But at the end of the day, this is what I want to do, right? It's as cheesy as that sounds, but like I do.
You see the path, you see the opportunity.
It was right there. And so and I thought I had everything, I still do think I have everything to do the job, but some days I'm like, holy crap, am I even cut out for this?
That's all of us. Yeah.
And so, that I think
that's
that was
like
the biggest
growth,
thing.
some more growth, right? That's the cool part is like when you ask that question, you find more growth.
Exactly. And so that was the whole mentality shift where it's not like, I'm not working, at a company doing this job. It's like, all right, came here to build something, to grow something, and then, eventually do that with the right people and bring people on board, that have the same, mentality or mind shift to saying, hey, they want to do that too and be a part of something really special. And so that was kind of the hook for me when I had it. Yeah. And now I don't even think about it. Now you could probably ask my wife, Jess, like if I'm stressed out or anything. She's probably like, yeah, sometimes, but he's definitely a lot better, than I was in the past type of thing. So
things happen, right?
Yeah.
Like you're talking about going between the two, like you're dealing with the two the worst product in the world is humans, right? Like we're so unpredictable to your point. And so you're going to have stresses, but when you love what you're doing and you get to create what you're doing and you can, see the path to it being yours, like that's awesome.
Yeah, no, looking back is a perfect opportunity, especially where I was at and where I'm at now. I'll be only 30 this year.
Wow.
And so I still have a long, long time, but then, opens up to just different future opportunities, what we're doing. And, the way that, either I want to build my division, what that looks like, what that scopes into be. And then, my wife on the other side of the business, she's doing a lot of the, what we call like LID or light industrial recruiting. Okay. And so she manages a huge team too. And some days, even though we work 10 feet away from each other, we never even talk to each other, or having way different conversations. And then that's
crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll come home and basically say like, hey, like, how's your day at work? Which is kind of crazy, right? You work in the same office, but I literally have like even today, I have no idea what she's even doing. She asked me if I wanted anything for lunch, but that was it. And so it is, and I think that's
really cool. What a balance.
I know. Cause there's a lot of family businesses out there, but it is so interesting that, we don't really talk with each other. Yes, things pop up during the day and different, meetings and management meetings, stuff like that. But most of the time it's like, hey, how's everything going?
You're doing your grind. You're in your own grind.
Yeah. And I could say, man, I had the best day ever. And she'd say, I had the worst day of my life. And then we just both look at each other like, well, that's recruiting. So hopefully it flips off tomorrow. I'm like, no, for me, I still want to have a good day, but
but hopefully you have a better day.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, no, it's that. Yeah, that has been an interesting part, which I was kind of not nervous for or scared for going into, but it just, you never know. And I was going into already a well-established business. How does everyone think about me coming in?
Yeah.
How do I not fight that mentality, but how do you adjust, right? And everyone knows,
that you belong and you're not just like nepotism. Like
I know. So that was, and basically how I got around that, or if anyone's dealing with that now, is just, I just had to establish credibility really quick right out of the gate. Like I knew when I came in there, they were bringing me in, they're, toting all this experience, whatever. It's like, all right, everyone's probably looking at me like, dude, this guy better crush it. If if not, it's going to be bad. So I really had to go in there, essentially prove myself and just try to crush it my first year. Which happened, which was awesome, which is like, oh, thank God.
Thank God.
Pressure off the back. I'm like, okay. And then
I can breathe.
Yeah. And then just getting more people on the team and everything. So it's just been cool to see. Even if it was just last year, it feels like it's only been a few months. I'm just like, I just felt like I started doing this like a month ago, but now everyone's humming along. So it's cool. Awesome. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. It's so cool to see how it just like clicked.
Yeah.
I love the advice for people that are going through that same thing, because it can be weighing people down to the fact where they're not able to perform, or they're not able to do what you did.
Yeah.
You got to shake it. You just got to go. And you got to perform.
Exactly. And that, my biggest thing too with that was not only establishing like credibility, but being, essentially being there for everyone. Right. So someone had a question or a problem, or if something that I could potentially help out and fix, even if I know nothing about the business, still chiming in with insights, a resource, but not overstepping my boundaries as it is too. So, even my first couple of weeks, everyone was laughing at me in the office because we set everyone up front, what we call like our front office coordinator, and the two ladies that work over right. They're amazing. They're insane. It's like they got 3 different computers and their hands are like, octopuses, and they're going all over answering the phones. And then I was up there. I didn't have any training so far. And I just started picking up the phone and talking with people. They're like, Adam, we love your mentality. We love that. Hey, you're just going for it. But hey, walk, crawl before you walk type of thing, like slow down. And so, but I think, hopefully they saw that at the end, like, hey, I'm willing to put myself in any situation or any challenging situation to say, hey, I'm here, gonna be here. Let's make this all work. Let's work together.
Let's be a team. Let's be a family.
Yeah. And if I can make your job easier a little bit, like, hey, that's what I'm here to do. Because, this is what I'm here for. So that really helped. And then looking back on that to now, since our new division, the specialized recruiting group, our professional recruiting division was so new, more people, or I say more people, the office, tends to, now they're talking about our division, now they're talking about our group, and, candidates, clients, just everything is good coming through that way in a weird sense. So yeah.
That's super awesome, man.
Yeah.
Man, this has been awesome. Like, this is so cool. And like, I've told viewers this before, that we've never had a conversation this deep. I didn't know much, and those are so much fun. Like, I don't know what to expect. And like, so I get to go on the journey along with the listeners that hear some of the stuff. And this has been a true pleasure to sit down and hear more of your story, hear how you're leading the way. You've got that true leadership mindset, and I can see why you guys why everything's in lockstep and is getting the momentum that it's getting.
Yeah. I mean, I hope for more in the future, and appreciate you having me on. This is a freaking blast, and I love talking with you too. It's always a good time. So, hey, cheers to more, hopefully.
Oh yeah, man. Thanks a lot, brother.